G'day, mate, and welcome back to Friday Facts number 409, Diminishing Bacons. And I have my good bacon-eating friend with me. How you doing, Mojo?
Hello, how we doing?
Doing better with it when I have bacon. So, today we're talking about bacons, because bacon's been a long part of Factorio's history, and lots of people complained about having 12 bacons, or 8 bacons. They said it was too much bacon. I don't get it. I don't think you can have too much bacon. Ever. Maybe that all the bacons looked the same. I think that was their main issue. Yeah.
Maybe they just didn't have enough butter on their bacon.
Oh, gross. Butter on the bacon? Aren't they already fattening enough? Wow.
Literally dripping. Don't you remember that from The Simpsons where Homer forces Bart to butter his bacon?
Oh, God, no.
I'm pretty sure there's also a scene where he wraps an entire stick of butter in bacon.
Oh, God. Oh, God. If you cook the bacon long enough that it's rock hard and you could tap it against something so then you could actually put butter on it, you cooked it too long. Okay, I like my bacon. I like my bacon inside the Breville press, so it has a hot plate top and bottom. You put the bacon in, you bring the thing down, you give it a good push, and then you lift it back up. It's cooked. It's cooked. It's done. Serve. Okay.
Excellent. Now everyone's hungry.
Yes.
Hungry for bacons.
Or grossed out by how I have my bacon because they like theirs crispy. I don't. All right. So, the main purpose of bacons is to allow massively increasing production in late game while being more than just a module or a faster machine. It's to make use of beacons, you need to adjust your building layout for them. Beacons succeed in this role, but there's a problem. There's a big problem with them, and that was all the builds looked exactly the same because you only had 2 really basic builds. You had a 12 beacon build, which was like, I am going...
As much as you could do.
Yeah, well, I'm going for maximum build rate. Absolute maximum build rate. I want to put productivity modules in every single machine, which is going to slow down the machines, but I'm going to get bonus items out of them, and then I'm going to wrap them in as many beacons as possible to maximize the speed of the machines, therefore have less machines. But it was super expensive on both beacons, which are not that expensive, honestly.
They're not that expensive.
They're slow to craft because it's like 15 seconds per beacon. So,
and even that's not insurmountable. The only pain to beacons is the lack of stack capacity.
Oh, they stack in 10. Oh, that's true. That's true. That's definitely true.
That's the annoying part with them.
So yes, the thing this was most expensive on was actual modules. Modules were a grind, a definite grind. Yeah. Yeah, sure, they used a lot of power, but look, at the end of the game, when you're doing these sorts of builds, who cares about power?
Power's infinite. Time's infinite.
Yeah. If you're using nuclear, it has
module grind.
Slow
module grind is
small cost. Small cost. But yeah, modules were a big thing. So yes, it led to a lot of boring builds, and you could see like this is a science build, and
yep,
it's not complicated.
Every builds look like that.
Yep. Yep.
If you do the fully spaced, uniform 12 beacon layout, everything becomes
this
perfect
design.
Square.
This design. Yeah, it's boring, and I understand the complaints that it's boring and people don't like looking at it, and that's fine. Like each their own, don't really care, but yes. Now there was a couple of variations. You could do an 8 beacon build. 8 beacon builds were much more efficient, as every single beacon touched. Is it 12 machines?
4, 3 or 4.
8 beacons touches 4 machines, but then if you put another row above that, it touches 8 machines. So it's an 8 to 8 build. Yeah. So each beacon can touch 8 machines. Each machine gets affected by 8 beacons. It's incredibly efficient. Incredibly efficient on beacons and modules. And the catch is, it is difficult to build because you do not have a lot of free space.
Yeah, it becomes more of a challenge to make everything fit, and that's where you start to get belt weaving and fun games like that.
Well, technically, I like this build because technically it's not belt weaving.
That is true. Yes,
they're bringing in.
I would I would belt weave this crap out of this thing. It would save on so many undergrounds.
I don't know how I do this build, but yeah, they have steel and gears, looks like at the top, and pipes at the bottom. Either or doesn't really matter. And they have this machine grabbing from the bottom and from the top, and then outputting to the bottom, which is then weaving out the engines all the way through the build.
It's doing a glorious zigzag.
Yeah.
I feel like that is such a V build. If anything, it is used up. If nothing else, it's a great build because it does not spare a single tile.
No, every tile is equally as important as all the other tiles. Okay, very important tiles.
Oh yes,
Made
it's very
sure
tile efficient.
made sure that like when you went to map view, it's just solid. There's no gaps whatsoever. Hence the power poles are on the outside. So 8-beacon builds much more difficult to build. Much more design focus goes into them. To make sure you maximize every tile because you do not have a lot of free space. And yeah, this, like Mojo said, a lot of belt weaving ends up happening. I'm not a fan of belt weaving, but in 8-beacon builds, it's sort of sometimes becomes a requirement.
I
Yeah.
like belt weaving.
Yeah. So they had some ideas. Yeah. So there's been lots of experiments over the years with beacons in general. We're going to look at Arendel's mod first, in space exploration, and that means that in space exploration, every machine could only be affected by one beacon, which was his implementation. And I think, did the beacons get extra range? The basic
Yeah, they got
beacons?
extra range and they were more potent. And you could cram more in them.
Yeah. So yeah, the biggest thing was more module slots than the actual beacons themselves, and that was pretty much the biggest change. But you notice that rather than a build surrounded by beacons, it's now a beacon surrounded by builds. It didn't really change much in the overall architecture of the game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It became more of a problem trying to avoid the overlap, and minimizing gaps between them. So you end up with this giant beacon grid.
Yeah. So that was a implementation, but he did have one other change, that he has wide area beacons, which, can I get more zoom? More zoom. Okay. Which is a very large beacon. It's like 4x4, has an awful lot of module slots, and will affect this whole area right here. So it affects an awful lot of machines, which is definitely a different way of designing things, because now your beacon becomes your central focus, and you're like, what can I cram into this area to make sure I have every single thing covered by this beacon? But as Mojo pointed out, you have a situation where you can't have things overlap.
Yep.
So you end up having very, very like stampable builds, but have a small gap generally between them for routing and that sort of stuff, and make sure that no two builds go too close to one another. Also means you can't just randomly throw down a beacon because something's running a little bit too slow and you're likely to run a little bit faster because machines can only be affected by one beacon.
Yep.
So there's that
And what
problem.
actually happens with those is that you end up becoming a city block build. So that area of effect for that one beacon becomes a city block, or in the case of that picture, it becomes like a strip.
Yeah,
it actually constrains you just as much, or if not more, than a full beacon or an 8/8 beacon.
Yeah, this becomes like, what can I build in a straight line or some similar fashion where everything is going to be covered by the beacon, everything's going to be getting that speed boost. And yeah, I've played space exploration, and I did notice that whenever I put down one of these beacons, which were not cheap, and the modules are definitely very, very expensive, it becomes an issue of, okay, how can I get the maximum out of this one beacon? And that meant, like, I did stupid things. I routed pipes all the way out of the way so then I could, do routing with pipes outside the builds. So I'd have
ends up running all this stuff around.
Yeah, so I'd have a few more tiles inside the build to hopefully fit in an extra machine, an extra whatever it happens to be. Which is interesting as a one-off, but I don't think as permanent gameplay would be a very good idea. And then we have another mod, being the built-in beacons mod. So this is done by V. The other two are done by Arendelle. And of course, the two of them are writing this particular Friday Facts. And built-in beacons basically means that beacons not in the game, and you take the ingredients required for a beacon and some speed modules and apply it to your level 4, 5, and 6 assemblers from memory.
Something like that. Or it was a module that you insert inside it. I forget how exactly it works.
No,
it's a really interesting concept.
It was an interesting concept, but I'm pretty sure it was, you craft a whole new machine, and that machine would be like an equivalent of a tier 4, 5, 6 assembler. I was last playing with this when last looked at this when what was the name of it? Factorio Plus?
Factorio Extended?
Yeah, Extended and Extended Plus came out. That's when built-in beacons was first released. It was a great idea, a great concept, but I was already in the process of playing with Factorio Extended Plus version, which already had a level 4, a level 5, a level 6 assembler, which all ran faster, along with a level 2 and a level 3 beacon, which also ran faster, so on and so forth. Because I was in the mega base stages of mega basing, where UPS is the number one concern, not a different way of playing. But yeah, definitely a different way of dealing with beacons.
It gave you
Yes.
more options, but it still ended up giving you the same sort of. It basically just drove you back into mid-game, early to mid-game builds.
It drove you back into, like, because you're not limited where the beacons are, because every machine is technically has its own beacon built in, you're really just getting the next tier of machines. You know,
Yeah,
it is the next tier with more module
probably a better way
slots,
to frame it.
more everything else. So it became, beacons just got deleted, basically. They just became not part of the game anymore. So the result of this factories never needed to transition to improving production rates by layout changes, other than routing in more belts, which can be seen both as negative and a positive. One hand, you still have the possibilities in the early stages of sticking more belts through is great, but at the same time, it doesn't introduce anything new. And then he has this, which is a direct layout with built-in beacons, which is just, oh my god. This was what? It has somewhere here.
This is the way the game is played according to V, which is amazing.
Okay. I think this is yellow science. Is this yellow science? It is. It's yellow science.
Yes, it
It's
is.
yellow science where it just brings in raw resources.
Yes.
And then everything's direct inserted. Which is
Yes.
madness. Absolute madness. And a lot of headaching. And a lot of max rate calculators, as he pointed out. To make sure
And
that
it's why I'm a massive fan of his builds. They are utter madness.
they are utter madness, but they're also beautiful art at the same time.
Yes.
It's like, plastic and steel on the same belt, which you're splitting, and then you're splitting off the steel, going and joining with green circuits, which is coming down here, which is then going to here, and then steel's also side loading over here to go to steel.
There.
Steel doesn't need to go where? Where steel go? Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a piece of art. It's a piece of art, fascinating and scary all at the same time. But yeah, not really a good overall answer for beacons or the lack thereof beacons. So there are a couple of problems with beacons in 1.1 and what mods can do with them. And that was basically because there wasn't a lot of direct access that mods could add to Factorio from a modding standpoint. The API was a little bit limited, but if they're going to change the game engine, they could do anything more. Normally where are we? If they have a good idea, we rapidly prototype it as a mod to test it. An interactive demo makes it easy for other people to evaluate the idea too. The problem in case is that we knew that the solution would need to be far outside of what the game engine could do, and whipping out a mod for it wouldn't be practical. Instead, we'd need to go through all ideas in detail, find the best one, and be pretty sure it's the right one before we make a prototype version. So because the lack of, modding capabilities built into 1.1, if they want to do something with beacons to change them overall for the better, so we have less identical builds, then they need to come up with a good idea first, and then make sure it's a good idea before they actually go through the process of coding it. So, the solution. So, our dreams were always the idea of diminishing returns. The more beacons you would have surrounding a machine, the less effective it would be. However, counter questions and doubts were in place. Are we sure this is really strictly better, or are we just trading one flawed system for another? At least we know the flaws of the current system, and it's not that bad. Wouldn't it be worse if it's more difficult to calculate the results effect in your head if it's not linear? This is 100% true.
Probably my biggest worry.
My Max rate calculator. We don't have time to implement something we're unsure about, and until the 1.0 negatives seem to outweigh the potential positives, the dream always at the back of our minds, primarily me and Arendelle. In fact, we're so notorious with it that when Boss Kid was refactoring some parts of the beacon effect code, he did in a way allow something like this just in case we desired it eventually. And desired it was. Arendelle whipped out this proposal. The effect transmission being the square root of the beacon count, the buffering based transmission effect from 0.5 or 50%, and adding quality scaling for effect transmission. I've tested it and finalized the values. So, the story behind the numbers. Arendelle's original idea included the square root calculation, but we imagined buffering beacons from 50% transmission to
100%.
100%, yeah.
1.0.
So let's just turn these to real numbers. So if you use a speed module, and the speed module has a 100% increase in speed, and you put it in a yellow machine, a tier 3, which has a crafting speed of 1.25, you add in a speed module, it increases the speed by 100%, so the machine ends up with a crafting speed of 2.5. Now,
Yes.
currently, if you put that speed module in a beacon instead, the beacon loses half that speed bonus, or that bonus from it being in a beacon. The advantage of the beacon is it can affect multiple buildings, so that's nice, but you lose half of that benefit. So you go from having a overall crafting speed of 1.25 up to 2.5, you only get half of that bonus, so you go from 1.25 to 1.75, 1 point something?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, 1.75 and a bit.
So I don't know why I didn't choose a crafting speed of 1 like a chemical plant. Well, I think a chemical plant was 2 off the top of my head. I'm gonna get the chemical plant.
Let's go with the chemical plant of a crafting speed of 1, or an oil refinery with a crafting speed of 1, and then we put a beacon in it, the speed module in it, we get a crafting speed of 2 because it's 100% bonus. And then if we put in a beacon instead, we lose 50% of that. So the refinery has a end crafting speed of 150%, 1.5. But I could put 2 refineries beside one another, having them both affected by the same beacon, and end up with an overall crafting speed of 3. Cool. Now let's continue with the story. So, on top of that, making beacons less crazy high counts without them scale with an increase in the quality as well. Earlier Friday fact, we said the beacons only decrease their energy consumption with higher quality because we thought quality makes things get crazy enough already. We don't want to push this any further. But since then, we've buffed belts 4 times with the item stacking, so it's a lot more appealing now. And they also added a new tier of belts, which move everything a third faster. So it's a lot more than 4 times. But let's continue. Playing with it, I quickly came to the conclusion of a 2x buff is insufficient, and low beacon amounts still feel weak, whereas high numbers are also nerfed. I figured I'd try doubling it again, went for 4 times buff. When I spoke to Arendelle about this, he later noted the value he'd also picked it in the beacon overload. I was happy to get reinforcement that if we independently arrive at the same value, it probably confirms it's good. We come back to that. Whilst it's wrapping up the changes... Huh?
Foreboding?
Yeah. Whilst wrapping up the changes and preparing to present it to the final boss, Kovarex, I made a sheet and a graph. I felt silly I hadn't realized the square root of 16 is 4. So if we buff beacons by 4, it means all builds with less than 16 beacons get buffed. It felt like it was obviously too much, so I settled on 3, which results in a transmission power of 1.5. So previously we had a transmission power of 0.5, now it's 1.5. So it means all beacons are better in 2.0 than they are in 1.0. Yeah. Yeah.
Or in the game is it current?
The current version, yeah. So with the effect of 3 or 4x or 3 times buff, the quality scaling needs to be brought back down a bit. So instead of 1 to 2.5 on like on most other things, the transmission scales from 1.5 to 2.5 for beacons, which is still great. They also reduce their power draw to after all. So quality you have the basic quality, a transmission effect of 1.5, and then every single time you increase the quality up the 4 levels above that, you're going to go from 1.5 to 1.75, then 2, then 2.25, and then 2.5 for legendary beacons. So legendary beacons, now that they don't just decrease power, because when we first read that, I'm like, okay, don't care about power, because as Mojo pointed out earlier, power is infinite.
Yeah, nuclear reactors are kind of overpowered still.
Yeah, we might have problems with not being able to put nuclear reactors on certain planets.
On certain platform. Oh, actually, the last FFF showed us a reactor on a platform anyway.
Certain planets.
Certain planets might not be compatible with reactors.
Or certain platforms, but then again, look, we're flying around giant spaceships. I'm pretty sure I can set one to just ship around water at the end of the day. Yeah, just to
Well,
make sure it ends meet.
you do get water from the platforms harvesting asteroids. And as I say, the last FFF did show, or one of the last ones did show a platform with a reactor
With a
on it.
reactor on it. Yeah, yeah.
So it is possible.
So, yeah, it all depends on how much that power you're using, I guess. Because
I mean, it is only 40 megawatts as of the current numbers because there's no neighbor bonus.
yeah, but if you're not using all the power, then you're not using all the water.
That too, yes.
So if you got a nuclear reactor that's making 40 megawatts, but you're only using 5, you ain't using a lot of water. Using like 25 water per second, it's not a lot. They still blah 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 blah. So I was almost here to see how beautiful the values were. So we have a pretty graph. We'll ignore the numbers for just 1 second. We have the blue line, which is the 1.1 current version.
The now effect.
Yeah, which is just linear, just straight up. It's fine. More beacons is always better.
More beacons, more better. More bacons, more better.
Yeah, always more bacon. Okay, except when 2.0 comes out, where there is going to be a point where you have too much bacon. And that's going to be right around the 8-9 bacon point. You sort of,
yeah,
diminishing returns like really kicking in compared to 1.1. But the good news is, if you have legendary bacons, more legendary bacons is always better. Always.
Yep, it's like buttering your bacon.
Oh, good.
I should point out that I don't actually approve of the idea of buttering your bacon.
Oh, good.
It's a terrible idea.
Just dip it straight in lard before you eat it. Yep. Okay.
Just pump the fat into your veins.
Yeah, it's quicker. It's quicker. So I think now I've read all this. I think the biggest thing is compared to a 2.0 bacon compared to 1.1 is 300% more effective because the original had a 0.5 effect transmission. The new one's going to have a 1.5. So it means your speed modules, previously you could put them in individual machines and get 100% of that bonus from that speed module. But if you put them in a beacon, you get 50% of that bonus. But you can affect multiple machines. And if you put 2 modules in the same beacon, then you'd end up at 100% eventually anyway. But it meant that it was a viable solution to put speed modules randomly in buildings to get a bonus straight away. Now it's pretty much, if I have a beacon, I put down a beacon and I put the speed module in it, I get 3 times the bonus.
And you'll actually feel the speed boost, whereas in the past, if you put like even like a single speed 3 or even like 2 speed 2s or 2 speed 1s, you just don't feel the bonus. Even 2 speed 3s, you don't really feel it.
No, but a 300% increase. I think speed 1s maybe not, but speed 2s. Oh, actually no.
I noticed that.
Even then, speed 1s, you probably still got tier 2 assemblers.
Yeah, so that would be 8% times 1.5.
Yeah.
So it's what, 12%. It's a little bit better of an improvement. It's better than, so in that sort of early to mid game base, you'd maybe put like 3 productivity, 1 speed, or 2 productivity, 2 speed, and that would really push towards putting the speeds into a beacon instead.
Well,
Really depends on when you get them.
That's going to be the other thing. It now means that because there's a 300% bonus, it means a few things. One, speed modules are really, you're going to want to put them in beacons. Just always in a beacon. If there is a beacon or an option to put a beacon somewhere, you don't want to put a speed module in a beacon every single time. It also means that previously efficiency modules.
Efficiency modules, yes.
They, when you put them inside a beacon, would increase the power consumption of the beacon, because now it has a module in it, but then decrease the power usage of the beacon and the surrounding buildings.
It would decrease the power consumption of the surrounding buildings, but because of the 0.5, it it lost so much of its effectability that yeah, it ends up burning more power.
Yeah, it was
Total.
never worth it for efficiency modules in beacons. It was with a couple of machines, mainly mining drills, and as Mojo
Yeah,
pointed
mining
out,
drills.
pump jacks.
I've always say the only place for speed modules currently is 3 in a mining drill for maximum effects, and then level 3s in a pump jack, and that's
Level 3s,
the
level
only
2s,
place you
level 2s, level 2s.
you could get the full bonus with the level 3s.
Okay. Me personally, pump jacks are allowed to pollute as much as they want. We're going to put speed modules in them because oil's technically infinite. Point 1 is still infinite if you pump it fast enough. So yes, it
This is
does.
true. I mean, you're still surrounded with beacons.
Oh yeah,
You
you
just
do
don't.
those too.
In the past, you would put productivity modules in it, but there's no need to put productivity in any
No.
mining drills anymore.
No. But yes, it means that now when you see bases, okay, rather than being a single building surrounded by beacons or buildings surrounding a beacon, you're gonna see. Well, you're guaranteed that every beacon will either have speed or efficiency because productivity and quality don't go into beacons. That's just not a thing. But
Productivity did go into beacons in version 4 and older, I
something,
believe it was.
yeah, they did when they first got
It was
introduced.
comically broken.
Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna see efficiency and speeds inside beacons, and we should also note that the alt mode is turned on for every single beacon in every single one of these screenshots, which is funny because that's an extra option you need to turn on to get the module icons on beacons. Yep.
In the modern beacon, you got to go out of your way to get the module icon to show.
Yeah, you got to go into graphics settings, then there's an other setting, interface setting, somewhere in there. I've
Is
turned it
it
on.
in the advanced setting? The hidden menu?
No, it's not in the hidden menu. It's under
okay.
settings, graphics, interface, something. It's the same spot you turn on the arrows for the inserters. So yes, efficiency and speeds are going to end up in beacons every single time, not in individual machines, I don't think. And in individual machines are going to end up with either productivity or quality, just across the board.
Yep.
Like you might occasionally see an efficiency inside a machine, and occasionally see a speed inside a machine, but it's going to be very rare. So I think the meta has changed. Definitely, don't disagree. The meta has changed, and I think I'm a fan of the new meta. But we still have a guaranteed meta that beacons have blue things or green things, and machines have, well, the orange, yellowy thing or the white thing. That's it.
The pink thing and the white thing.
Yeah, the pink thing and the white thing. Which one's pink?
The productivity. I suppose it's more of a brown now. It used to be a lot more pink.
They're all wrong color modules. That's also wrong color modules. There we go. I don't know, brown, orange.
Yeah, they're more orange now.
Yeah.
Well, they are orange now. They used
Yeah.
to be bright pink. I think the Crastorio ones are still pink as well.
It's
been a while
pink,
since I
purple?
played Crastorio.
Purple. They were purple.
Pink, purple.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, they're purple in Crastorio, I think.
So, the surprisingly minor for existing factories, machine affected by 8 beacons will still, in fact, perform 6% faster, while machines with 12 beacons get 13% slower. It's 13% slower than what we have currently.
Yes.
It's still technically faster than 8 beacons, as we can see from the graph. Like, 8 beacons is down here, and 12 beacons is up here. So it's still technically faster. It's just diminishing returns, you know?
It's just, yeah, you just hit that point of where it's not really worth the payoff.
Yeah.
Actually, before I'd even looked at the graphs, I immediately was thinking with 1.5 that probably 4 to 6 beacons would be the sweet spot for the most part.
Yeah, look.
Outside of hardcore mega basing.
What, one to 2 beacons thrown throughout the base is going to have a very, very large impact. 4 to 6 when you're starting to scale up. And then I still think because people have got in their heads 8 beacon builds for a long time, I still think there's going to be a lot of 8 beacon builds around. I'm not disagreeing that you're probably going to find that somebody will come up eventually with a new meta for 6 beacon builds, because it's just a little bit better off on the efficiency graph. But we'll see. We'll see what the end result is.
My mindset with that is that So legendary is your endgame plus. Like it's your beyond endgame mega base. So you
Oh
just
yeah,
want to
yeah,
use legendaries for mega base.
yep,
So for the standard beacons, those are mid game to late game, which means that I'm not going to be as strict trying to min max it.
correct.
I mean, people still do it, but that's the way I see it. Is that you're going to try and go for 4 to 6 to save a little bit of expense on the builds because you don't quite have the resources, but still get a decent effect.
Well, 4 gives you a 6 times multiplier, and 6 gives you a 7.3 times multiplier. So 4's great. 6 is a little bit expensive. 2 is way better at 4 times normal speed. 4.5, 4.25 times normal speed. That's quite effective. 1 is like 3 times. So you go from 3 to 4.25. It's like 2 threes is better than 2 single machines affected by a beacon is better than a single machine affected by 2 beacons. And I think that's what they're really getting at.
Yeah,
Individual
try
beacons
and
dropped around the place is going to be much more effective than whole builds surrounded by beacons.
kind of like the next thing down.
And next thing down, yeah. So results. Using beacons feels actually impactful if you just place a few of them. In space age, especially important, that's typically when you want to increase your production to launch a lot of rockets. As productivity decreases the machine speed, use the old system of the first 2 beacons only get the machine back above 100% crafting speed. At this point, you consciously know that you're made an upgrade thanks to the increased productivity, but it doesn't really feel as exciting as perceived speed is roughly the same. Now, because a single beacon has 3 times the effect, it's more enough to break through the negative effect of productivity, which feels much better. So we have a traditional 3 to 2 green circuits with just some beacons thrown into gaps that are generally there in the build already. And
Just happened to be there from the start, from the very start of the game.
yeah, and we've got a significant increase in overall speed already. In saying that, as Mojo pointed out, there's productivity in the wire, so you don't technically need the 3 machines anymore. It's more of a 1-to-1 ratio. It's a slight amount of downtime, but it's not major enough. So
That's the
I
end of the world.
normally remove this middle cable machine and put the beacon there instead.
You could have a second beacon there.
I
Speed
could,
it up even more.
but we go from 3 to 4.5.
Oh, you could do it later.
4.25. Like it's maybe not worth it. Maybe not worth it.
Yeah, a few years ago, so the backstory is a few years ago, I actually sat down and calculated it out, and it worked out that a 1-to-1 build for circuits is just always better.
I think it's 16 green circuit machines need 17 cable machines.
15, 16s at
Oh, there you go.
full level 3 productivity.
I was very, very close. Yeah.
It's very close. It's very close to 1-to-1.
Yeah.
And it works, and the ratio also goes off as soon as you throw level 1 productivities in enough to the point where you can just 1-to-1 it.
Yeah. It's very close, and with a couple of prod ones, you're pretty much there. So yes, in some situations, it's not about being able to afford beacons, but the building space is limited. So high effect beacons are a natural fit in places like space platforms. So there's a single beacon with 2 speed 3s around it, which do have quality markers
Efficiency
on them.
3s.
Sorry, efficiency 3s. Which is probably going to save an awful lot of power in this little area. And as they are,
Because those have speed 3s inside all the machines, that's a significant increase in power.
in power as well. Yeah. So we're adding power, and then we're getting efficiency out of that power. Also, they're electric furnaces, so they tend to use a bit of power to start with. Have no idea how much the grinders use. That's a whole different story. But yeah, I can definitely see what they've because they changed the beacons. It now means efficiency actually has a place inside a beacon.
That's probably the biggest takeaway, is that efficiency modules do something useful now.
Yeah. With green modules can actually drop the energy of a machine significantly. This gets especially crazy with high qualities as the beacon effect transmission increases. The efficiency module gets more powerful, and the beacon reduces power draw with a higher quality, so it's worth even more. All the machines above screenshot have minus 80% energy consumption, which is the maximum amount. Space.
I was going to say that's interesting because that is maximum, which means it potentially is dropping it by even more with just the blue tier.
Well, it's a blue 3 with a. They're both blue 3s as well. Yeah. Um,
And a blue 3 beacon.
yeah. So that's yeah.
Blue 3, just a blue beacon. I don't know why I said 3.
Because it's got 3 little dots.
Yeah, true.
It's the third tier of quality because they haven't come up with a good name that is actually worth saying and sticking. So yeah, space platforms could choose a balance between crafting speed and power efficiency and productivity, all of which are actually significant in limited space. So it's an interesting choice to make and think about. Larger structures like the Foundry typically have a higher crafting speed in order to feel more powerful and reasonably space efficient compared to small entities. Due to the size, they can be reached by more beacons, 16 for the 5x5 Foundry, which increases their already crazy crafting speed a bit too much. The diminishing returns make these differences more reasonable. Don't worry, the Foundry still gets insane, especially with all the quality bonuses by the end game. Trading a few beacons for a machine next to one another is probably going to result in some new possibilities for some UPS optimized builds. And I like this little build.
I do like this build. I do like watching the thingies do the dance as well. It's always fun, fun and mesmerizing to watch.
The
I also
spinning
love how
machines.
chaotic the wires are
Ye-
from the substations.
Oh, it's full spaghetti.
Oh yeah, it's wonderful.
Yeah, I'm fully for that. I can't be bothered cleaning up the wires. Although I thought they said that was now part of base game, that would try and clean it up for you. So we're making wire from molten copper, which is getting
Yes.
fed directly into green circuits, which are getting output here on an
And red
underground.
circuits.
Huh?
It actually goes via it goes it goes direct into green circuits and it
Well,
goes down to red. Yeah.
it goes into an underground here up to red circuits, which is being fed by the green circuit machines top and bottom.
Oh,
Which
the undergrounds meet each other in the middle. I
yeah, they
didn't
meet
even
each other
notice
in the
that.
middle. Yeah. Which then also gets its wire from the belts that meet one another in the middle. And then we have direct insertion of green circuits into the blue circuits with the red circuits going through a box. I'm sort of wondering, I'm guessing a single long-handed inserter wasn't fast enough. I know what we need. We need a stack long-handed inserter.
You know what? You're right. I've heard that a few times lately. Is that we need the stack longhander or is it the bulk long? Is it bulk longhander or stack longhander?
Either or both. The
I can't tell anymore.
long-handed stack bulk inserter of bulk stackiness. Yes.
That's
Yes.
what's needed.
Yeah, we need one of those. We need one of those. Because they are changing the meta, and like, this area is still covered in beacons. Okay, they're all legendary, which is amazing or expensive, or it's done in creative mode where it all was free. But that's an awful lot of stuff moving around, and I feel like these boxes shouldn't be here. I feel like it should be just another inserter, a legendary inserter of legendary quality that moves things legendary faster.
Legendary longy.
Oh my god, just a new thing. Okay, I do like this build. I think it's gonna be an interesting build. I'm waiting to see the first video actually duplicates this when game comes out. Okay, so I don't dare to make any kind of claim this is a UPS efficient build, but you get the idea, and I'm thrilled to see what kind of designs you come up with. With quality, you'll be able to make even better use of the few expensive modules you've got by putting them in the best quality beacons you can get. Another thing quality adds to consider is that maybe you don't have quite as many legendary speed modules, but plentiful productivity modules, or vice versa. Firstly, you can majorly impact what kind of builds is more affordable to you at the time, and could even influence the long-term strategy of which planet you visit first.
I actually think efficiency modules in beacons would be a big game changer for early Fagolia.
Yes, because you can get that energy decrease broadcast to multiple machines.
Yes. Right when you potentially need it before you get the lightning rods.
Before you get the lightning rods and the better lightning rods.
And the better lightning rods and the storage to store the lightning.
I think you already have the storage.
Yeah, technically you do. It's just a matter of deploying it all, though.
Yeah. So conclusion, I've been annoying all my surroundings, including Coverx, by constantly talking about beacon mechanics on and off for about 7 years. I got to the point, if I brought it up, I get the reactions, oh, you with your beacons again, and frankly, I couldn't blame them. Last month, I already abandoned hope that we would ever be implemented as expansions seem to be getting feature complete. ... Okay,
It's
feature
very
complete.
significant, that sentence there.
Yeah, But one day we were having a discussion with Arendelle asking what were the last features he'd like to happen. Arendelle replied with a single word, "I'm very excited," and to be surprised with his very confident voice, "Beacons." This information was missing. The information I was missing, he already done some research with Bosskit early in time of the code, is basically ready for it. I was shocked at the most positive answer. It only took us a few days to have a working version, find the right values. Only took a few weeks, which is great considering the scope of the change. The resulting values were better than I imagined, and making the change really appealing. So convincing Kovacs wasn't that difficult in the end either. In 2.0, maximizing beacon count would still generally be a good practice to have things produced quickly and save on computer performance. However, there'll now be a lot more room for creativity, and with the quality return on investment comes into question more. In general, this can be regarded as a buff to beacons, which should help you progress quicker, especially in the early stages of the game, which improves space age being less tedious and more interesting. Yeah, it's not really they haven't nerfed anything. They've just made beacons way better at the start of the game and sort of left that 8 beacon point at roughly about the same.
Yeah, that's sort of gold standard that we always worked with.
It's technically slightly better, and 9 is the break-even point, and 12 is worse compared to 2.0 compared to 1.1. So a detail that makes Bosskit's implementation unreasonably exciting is the behavior is defined by a very simple profile table in Lua. So it's a simple diminishing values table that technically means if you add more and more beacons, you always get 0.1 effect. I assume.
Yeah, if you once you go beyond that table, it'll just presumably it would just keep taking that last
Just
value.
repeats the last value. So technically every beacon, it makes it go faster.
The interesting thing for me is how long the table is.
It means he really went and like, okay, what's the maximum amount of beacons that we can have around the maximum size building? In base game, probably plus a tile.
Like 100, I think, values.
I don't know. So they did the graph up to 16, which is a 5x5 building. Technically the module for the space platform is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8x8. I don't know. I don't know how many values there are, but there's a lot.
There's a lot. Yeah, I'm guessing about 100. And I'm pretty sure that probably accounts for like I think it's tier 7 Bob's mods. I forget what they go up to. I haven't played Bob's mods in years now.
But Arendelle in space exploration has nine tiers of modules, but only 2 tiers of beacons. You got the standard beacon, the wide area beacon. And that's really what it comes down to, is beacons. So
oh yeah, and Bob's mods has 9 million tiers of everything.
Yeah. But yes, it does mean mods can revert the beacons back to work like 1.1 trivially. Trivially implement beacon overload, make a beacon overload which allows overlapping, and make a beacon effect increase with beacon count, or just about anything else they can think of. Incredibly happy to have Arendelle on my side. As you can probably tell, both of us writing the blog post too together, we're able to make so many dreams coming out reality. A huge thank you goes out to Bosskit, who listened to us and took regard when cleaning up the code to be ready for what we'd want. We're extremely proud to have finally found a way to make change that many of you called for over the years as well. We've heard you. All things just have a time and a place. Like we're getting to the final implementation. When is Factorio 2.0 going to come out? Because people need to book holidays.
That's a real question.
Yeah, people need to book holidays for work.
Yes. Do you know what also occurred to me is that you could have a custom table of beacon diminishing values, and then you could have an island of really, really strong beacon transfer at value number 69.
Yes, you could just halfway through this graph put in a value 69.
You could have like an effect of 420 at value 69.
Yep. Yeah.
So if you have 69 beacons, it's suddenly really nice.
Okay.
You got nothing.
And with that done, we're going to call this for this Friday Facts here. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Do hope you've enjoyed. We'll talk about biters next week. And yeah, I think that's it. I'm done. All right, we're out. Bye.
Right, see ya.